So first you're going to want to distribute the lotion over their back. It's easiest if you'll put the lotion in your hands, rub it together, and then distribute it from there instead of just looping it onto their back. And then if they've got tight knots that they want to get rid of, you're not going to want to just go in right away with your elbow or your thumb. That will hurt. So you're going to want to warm up their body a little bit. So I try to just do all-encompassing strokes. So that way you're warming up all that muscle tissue on the back before you go in and try to do any detailed work on them at all. And you're going to want to avoid the spine. I am going right next to her spinal cord, staying on the muscle tissue, and then coming back up. And just doing that a few times. So you're going to want to do that on each side of the back, just to kind of give it a good warm up. And then most people's problem areas are either their low back or their shoulders or their neck. So some things that you could do for the lower back is just go in like some little circles right here over top of that SI joint. That feels really good. If you use this hand over top of the other one, you can get a little bit more pressure, so that way you're not just using these fingers to give the pressure. You can use both hands to push down. And go around in circles around that SI joint. And then continue those circles down and around the hips. And then you can also pull up and in towards the spinal cord to kind of hit these QL muscles. Now, if the person you're working on wants a little bit more pressure, you can use your elbow if you want to. That will save your hands and your fingers and your thumbs. Just make sure you're avoiding the spinal cord. You don't want to be on any bone at all with that elbow if you're going to. Then come down and around the hip and then back up into the lower back. If you want to, you can use both your elbows as well. And you can go back and forth. If they've got a trigger point, which is a particular area that's bothering them, you can always stop and hold on that trigger point and just wait for a few seconds. And then just move slowly up the back. Okay, we're going to come up here into her shoulders now and show you some few things you can do in the shoulders. I always like to warm up the traps before getting into them too deep. This area always seems to bother people, right underneath the shoulder blades. I'm just taking both my thumbs and going from the center of the spine out to that shoulder blade. Another thing you could do, another way you could do that is just by using your fingers in this type of a motion and going over to the shoulder blade. After you've done that for a few minutes, another good way to get into the shoulder blade is to put your arm up underneath the shoulder right here. That kind of lifts up her shoulder here. And then you can take your hand like this and go up underneath the shoulder blade, and then you can use your thumb to really get in there and hit some trigger points. And you can go in and hold for as long as you feel like you want to hold, or until you feel like, or they communicate with you that maybe it's not hurting anymore, or if you need to go deeper or lighter Always communicate with who you're working on so that way you're not going too deep. Another area besides the shoulders is right up here on the top of the shoulders. Let's show this over here a little bit better. You just take your thumb and start at the center of where her spinal cord is. I'm going off to the side, so I'm not on her spinal cord, and then I'm just going over and using some pushing motions. And this is normally where people have a lot of crunchies, so this is something that feels really good. If you're feeling like there's any knots in there, if you feel any crunches as you go through there, then just keep your finger there and hold it for a few seconds. Now if you want, or your partner wants you to work on this area, but it's too much for your thumbs, you could always use that elbow again. Again, stay off the spinal cord. You're going to want to be right next to it. Come up and over the shoulder. And then you're going to want to lighten up on your elbow pressure as you come over that shoulder. You can also come back the opposite way. And just follow that shoulder blade. Again, if you find any areas that are knotted up, you can certainly hold and put your pressure right through here. That will save your hands if you feel like doing massage for more than 5 minutes is too much for your fingers to handle. Using your elbow or your forearm can save on your fingers. Also just taking your elbow and holding right here for a few seconds and then going back down the back. Okay, and after you've had the opportunity to do that on both sides of the back, then just finish off again with some few finishing strokes, so that way you're encompassing the whole entire body, and a few strokes to finish it off and make it feel complete. And then we're going to go ahead and turn Sam around and show you some neck movements that you can do.